Don't use constants unless you understand exactly how it works. Let me show you why. I've got this project, it's called class library, and it has a constant value of my string, and the value is 1-string value, and it has an add method in there. I've taken this class library, taken this DLL, compiled it, and included it in this console application over here. And I'm referencing that constant value right here, my string, and we're doing some, we're calling the addition and displaying it on screen. So let's run that now, see what it looks like. And here you go. It's displaying 1-string value and 2, because it's taking this value and it's adding 1 to it. All right, so let's change things up a little bit to see some differences on how this actually works. So if I were to change this to a 2 and then add 10 instead of 1, I'm going to compile this code. And then in the class library, I'm going to take the DLL. All right, grab the DLL, and then I'm going to place it into the console app. But instead of placing it into the solution into where you would compile the code, I'm going to place it right into the bin folder, which is an example of as if it was being placed right into production, because the only changes we made were on the class library and not in the console app. There were no changes in the console app. So this code can actually be, the DLL can actually just be placed in production without, recompiling everything. So I'm going to now, without compiling anything, I'm going to now run the code. And what do you think we will see? Well, on the bottom, we were passing a 1, so now we should see 11. And on the top, we should see a 2-string value. So we get the 11, but wait a minute, it's showing 1. It's not showing 2, which is what we have in that DLL. And that's where the problem is. So if we go back to the console application and we look at the intermediate language here, and I'll click on this line right here, you'll see that it actually has the string value that is in the constant value. It's hard-coded right into the console application's intermediate language. So when you do something like this and we're using constants, it doesn't maintain that link to the value that's held within class 1 myString, the constant value. It takes that actual value and places it right into the code. So what you really want to do is, instead of using constants in this situation, you want to use read only. And we can compile this. And then now I'm going to go into the DLL for the class library. I'm going to now place it not into production. We actually need to bring this back into the project to recompile it, because going from a constants to a read-only, constants are by default a static value, static field. So when we go to read-only, it's now part of an instance, not the class. So it does need to be recompiled. So let's compile that there. And if we run it now, we'll see what we were expecting, a 2 value. But let's test this out now. So let's come back to the class library, and let's change this to a 3, and then we'll change this to 100. I'm going to compile this. Let's go into the compiled folder, the DLL we're going to take, and we're going to go into quote-unquote production here. We're going to drop this in there, hit replace, and then we're going to run the code. Once again, we're not compiling the console app. We just compiled the class library. And here we have it. Let's take a look and see what we have, right? So 3-string value was updated and 1 was passed. 1 plus 100 is 101. So it picked up those changes. And why is that? It's because it wasn't hard-coded into the console application. Let's take a look here. Let's look at the intermediate language now. So what happens here is it's maintaining that reference to the class. And if we look at the low-level code, you can see it's this. It looks exactly the same. It's object myString. And just to show you, I'm actually going to go back over to the class library. Here, I'm going to put that back to constant. All right, we're going to compile this because I want to show you what it looks like in the low-level code. So we'll go back to the project itself to recompile it. So we're here. We're going to change that back to class 1, which is a static field off of class. And now let's take a look at the intermediate language. I wanted to highlight here, you can see it's hard-coded right into the console app project, you know. So this is the reason why. Just pay attention when you're doing that. Examples of where you would use constants are for values that you know will never change. What's a good example of that? Pi in mathematics. It's a value that's never going to change. So you could use that as a constant. Except for the fact that we already have math.pi. We don't really need to create a new constant for that. But interestingly enough, it is a constant, right? So they're utilizing it the correct way. Days of the week, you know, values that just will not change. Values that have any possibility of changing, you should use read-only. For example, tax rates, you know, and things of that nature. So just keep that in mind. All right. So I hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.